I'm Julie Zenner along with Dennis Anderson, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
Well, the new executive director of the Iron Mining Association is a familiar face here in the Northland. We will chat with former news anchor Kristen Vake about her new role on the Iron Range.
North House Folk School in Grand Marais will celebrate its 25th anniversary this year. We'll have a report about the school's impact on the North Shore community.
Minnesota's summers often mean days at the beach, but sometimes high bacteria levels make swimming dangerous. A Minnesota Department of Health official shares tips to keep you and your loved ones safe.
These stories and voices of the region coming up on Almanac North. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thanks for watching, and what a great way to begin the weekend, sunny and 70.
We have had some unbelievable weather in the month of July. I hope this kind of moves off into August as well.
I hope it gets a little bit warmer, because I was thinking today that it feels a little bit more like September than the end of July.
A little fallish.
Anyway,
right.
We'll begin with the headlines.
All right, thank you very much. Wisconsin Senate Minority Leader Janet Bewley was involved in a tragic three-vehicle accident last Friday in Ashland. The crash killed two people, a young mother and child from Pennsylvania. On Monday, Senator Bewley's office released this statement, quote, "This is a heartbreaking event for the community. Our thoughts and prayers are focused on the individuals involved, their families, and their loved ones," end quote. Senator Bewley was not seriously injured. A police investigation is ongoing.
The St. Louis County Board has voted to end a longtime contract with Mend Correctional Care and hire St. Luke's Hospital to provide state-mandated medical care to inmates in its facilities instead. Mend has been embroiled in controversy since 2018 when a Beltrami County inmate died while under its care. The $1.7 million contract with St. Luke's will cost the county more, but will expand medical and mental health care for inmates from 5 to 7 days a week.
The International Wolf Center in Ely has introduced two new members to its wolf pack. Blackstone and Kaz recently joined the center as ambassador wolves. Both pups are northwestern species of gray wolf.
And 9 entrepreneurs will get a chance to test out their businesses in downtown Duluth, operating from a shared storefront. The opportunity is part of the Greater Downtown Council's Pop-Up CoLab, a partnership with the Duluth 1200 Fund. It allows businesses to experience operating in downtown Duluth risk-free, with free space and grants to defray costs related to utilities, marketing, and inventory. The competitive application process gave preference to businesses owned by women, veterans, and members of the Black, Indigenous, and People of Color or BIPOC community. The shared storefront space is at 313 and 317 West Superior Street. Look for business doors to open by August 2nd.
The Iron Mining Association has welcomed a new face to its ranks, but she might be familiar to many of you. Kristen Vake, a former CBS 3 evening news anchor and Chisholm native, puts her homegrown knowledge to use as she steps into her new role as executive director of the organization. So here to talk about her new position is Kristen Vake. Kristen, welcome. Good to have you with us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
So what is the Mining Association?
Sure. So the Iron Mining Association, we're actually celebrating 30 years this year, but it's an association that advocates and supports the iron mining industry. So it includes producers, so that would be the mining companies on the range, and then suppliers and vendors, which there are many, many, many of those thanks to the mining industry. And so really our goal is just to support that industry and keep it going strong.
Mm-hmm. So you've spent the past 6 years or so working for Channel 3. Yes. What made this the right time for you to have a career change?
Well, it wasn't an easy decision to make because I have a love for journalism. I think it's so incredibly important to share the stories of our area. But I felt this was a new way for me to give back and support my home area. I'm from the Iron Range, and this seemed like a good opportunity to not only give back to my community, but also to an industry that put food on the table for my family for generations. And that's a story many folks can share.
I was just going to say, I understand mining has had a major role in your family. How is that?
Major role. My dad worked at Mintac for U.S. Steel for 40 years. He's now retired, but truly the hardest working guy I know. And then his dad and my mom's dad, my brother works for a mine, and it just goes back generations. And that's not a unique story. Many people have that same story. This industry has really, for well over 100 years, supported so many families, and it's really what the Iron Range was built off of. And so I'm excited to be in this role and be able to advocate for such an important industry.
In addition to anchoring at Channel 3, you hosted the Eye on Mining. How did that prepare you for this position?
Connections, as you all know, connections are huge, but also just getting an inside look into this industry. I think most people only get to see it from afar or hear about it. And as a reporter, you get kind of an inside look. And so I was able to really learn a lot about it and see how it runs and how high tech things are now and how hard people work there to keep the industry going. And so covering the mining industry certainly fueled my passion for it, even more so.
You mentioned that the mining industry wants to take a kind of a new direction, local, focusing maybe on stories, some other things that maybe they haven't focused on before. How are you going to do that?
So the Iron Mining Association historically has focused more on lobbying, so mining legislation and policy, but we feel now is the time where we really need to share more about what we actually do on the Iron Range in the iron mines. What we do, how we do it, and just how incredibly important it is to not only the Iron Range, but to the state of Minnesota, to the country, to the world. I mean, the steelmaking process starts on the Iron Range, and without that being successful, the industry as a whole takes a hit. And then, as I mentioned those suppliers and vendors, they're impacted as well. So we're talking thousands of jobs, impacts on communities. So it's really a vital industry that we need to keep strong.
Will the lobbying aspect go away, or will it continue?
We'll continue to do it. It just won't be our sole focus. We really feel that we're kind of a misunderstood industry in a way, and that's to no one's fault, but we just want to share more, kind of open the blinds on how mining works and how we do it, and we do it safely, and I'm excited to share those stories.
Are there things you really have to study up on now?
Yes, I am learning a lot, but thankfully I have board members on the Iron Mining Association who work for a lot of the mining companies and a lot of the supplier and vendor companies, and they are experts in the field, and so I get to learn from the best of the best, and I feel very blessed.
Having somebody young like yourself in the position, do you think that will inspire other young people from the region to maybe stick around and give mining another look?
I hope so. Trust me, when I was in high school, I wanted nothing more than to leave the Iron Range. I thought I need to get out of here, but I ended up coming back not many years later, and I think there's a lot of misperceptions about job opportunities within the mining industry. I never thought I would be in this role. I truly didn't even know this type of opportunity existed, but they are out there. And the jobs in mining are good paying jobs, they're good benefits, and they're really diverse. There's a lot of different things you can do in this industry.
Have you seen it change over the years since you've been in the news business, for example, because you've been covering that industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think the industry is continuing to develop constantly. They're finding new technologies, they're finding new ways for more sustainability, and so it's a constant change, and I think that that's really important. We need to continue in that direction, and I think we're on the right path.
All right, Kristen, with that, we have to wrap it up. Thank you very much.
Thank
Kristen
you.
Vake from the Iron Mining Association. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Well, it's time now for Voices of the Region. Every week we hear from an area journalist about the stories they're covering. This time our guest is Heidi Holtan from KAXE Radio in Grand Rapids.
Since May, we have been featuring rising senior from South Dakota State University, Luke Gorski, on KAXE. He has been on a quest to hike all of Minnesota's 66 state parks. I'm happy to report he accomplished his goal. We followed him through lots of terrain, from prairies to river valleys to bogs, forests, lakes, and of course to Lake Superior. He let us know about flowers like the orange hawkweed, which it turns out is incredibly invasive, not good foraging for cows. He also saw his first views of Mille Lacs Lake from Catheo State Park. Luke saved the North Shore parks for last, knowing that they would be some of his favorite. In his rankings of Minnesota's 66 state parks, his top were Beaver Creek Valley, Jay Cook, Split Rock Lighthouse, Whitewater, and his favorite of all, Chattagooch. He told us how he decided on his rankings.
The overlooks is pretty much the top thing, which is why Chattagooch ended up being my number one park. That park probably has 30 overlooks around the whole thing. We hiked 15 miles and we probably only saw half of them. And really, it's just like interesting trails. Like if the trails are boring, like through grass and woodsy, like John might find that interesting because there might be lots of different trees everywhere, but I like the different terrain and stuff like that. And if it's very flat, I won't like that as much. Also, like how many people were at each park. Like if there were more people, I ended up dropping it down just a little bit. Same with mosquitoes. I tried to keep mosquitoes out of my ranking as much as possible, because if you visit a park at another time of year, you're going to have a total different experience.
We also recently talked to some folks in the Brainerd area with the nonprofit My Neighbor to Love Coalition. They have a mission to lift up people who are experiencing homelessness. They have a three-pronged community approach. They call it Home, Health, and Harmony. Vicki Kinney is the executive director, and she talked with us about the reasons for homelessness, things like one, health crisis or car issues, mental health, veterans, foster kids aging out of the program. She told us about their idea of a tiny house community.
We'll be going into the city very soon with to apply for conditional use permit, so we can fit more homes on the property that we're wanting to develop. And so this will be a multiplex unit. It's quite creative. So it's very few shared walls. So each unit actually looks like a separate cottage, basically. And they'll all have front porches with sidewalks around to encourage neighborliness and socializing. So it's going to be just a warm, friendly type environment. Full kitchens, full bathrooms. The smaller units are about a little over 400 square feet, about 440 square feet. And then we'll have a few family units that will be much larger than that. They're small, but they meet the needs. And we'll also have a community health center that we plan to build that will provide, mental health therapy there. It'll be a classroom, meeting room, offices for the property manager, and then a gathering area, full kitchen, and just places to gather and socialize, an exercise room, art therapy room, whatnot.
And finally, our staff phenologist, John Latimer, continues to keep us updated on nature. Berries this time of year are really the star of the show. Right now, it's blueberries, Juneberries, and raspberry season.
Kind of an interesting comparison between Juneberry and raspberry. So the Juneberries flower synchronously, and it happens in, early June this year, but late May sometimes. And they all flower at once. So the whole plant flowers, and you've got all these flowers open simultaneously. The raspberry, on the other hand, flowers sort of asynchronously. Like yesterday when I was out looking at raspberries, I found ripe raspberries and I found raspberries that were in flower.
You can check out our new Season Watch newsletter at kaxe.org. We will let you know what to be looking for in nature.
When you live in or near the land of 10,000 lakes, it's hard to resist a swim on these hot summer days. but sometimes that water may not be suitable for swimmers. We spoke with Tricia Robinson from the Minnesota Department of Health about how high bacteria levels can put a stop to your beach day.
Minnesota Department of Health, it's really important that we track waterborne diseases just to make sure that in case there are people getting sick, we want to make sure that we're on top of that so that we can stop transmission right away so that there aren't additional people that are getting sick. Also, we like to track the trends, see, where things are changing, if there are new things emerging, there are changing climate, if there is anything that is impacting, our waters, that we can address those issues and keep an eye on it. A lot of times bacteria levels follow if we have any sort of heavy rains, it could be high bather loads, there could be some sort of contamination event. All of those things often lead to higher bacteria levels in our lakes or any sort of fresh body of water that we have. So what we're monitoring for is E. coli, and that is just a general indicator E. coli. It doesn't mean like the E. coli, like S-tech E. coli that would make people ill necessarily. It's just strictly an indicator organism that means that the germs that might make people sick could be in the water. But the germs that do make people sick most commonly, can kind of run the gamut. That could be E. coli, like 0157. We could have outbreaks of that. It could be something, like a virus, like norovirus. We could have outbreaks of that. Really, any of the germs that people have on them that could make them sick with a diarrheal illness. If you are sick when you get in the water, you bring all of those germs in the water with you, unfortunately. And it doesn't mean that you have to have an accident in the water. All of those germs just, unfortunately, everybody has a small amount of poop on them. It's really gross to think about, but it's true. And it washes off in the water when you go swimming. And so that's why it's really important that we always tell people to stay out of the water if they're sick. And so basically anything that causes diarrhea, all of those germs like Cryptosporidium, Giardia, E. coli, Campylobacter, they can spread through our fresh water if we're, going swimming. But avoiding swallowing water when you're swimming, that's easier said than done. Of course, sometimes I don't think anybody's intentionally swallowing the water while they're swimming, especially with small children. They often unintentionally ingest water, but that's how we often get sick, is by drinking the water. And so we want to make sure that we're keeping water out of our mouth, especially not playing with water in our mouth and like becoming a spigot and spitting it out. But also, to avoid other things, making sure that, if possible, showering before we get in the water, but also showering after we go swimming. And then, trying to keep the beach area safe too. So avoiding, feeding waterfowl, not feeding the birds at the beach, keeping them away from the area, and keeping, your pets away. So not, if there are pets at the area at all, if cleaning up our pet waste and not allowing that to get into our waterways. The Minnesota Department of Health runs the Lake Superior Beach Monitoring Program. And so if people are interested in the Lake Superior Beach Monitoring results, those are available on our website at mnbeaches.org. And so definitely go check those out. Check them out before you go visit. As for other beaches within the state of Minnesota, whether those beaches are monitored or not, those are at the discretion of the entity that kind of has responsibility for the beach. So that might be the park district or the county or the city.
The North House Folk School in Grand Marais will celebrate its 25th anniversary this year. Producers Megan McGarvey and Isaac Quick took a ride up the North Shore to learn more about the impact the school has had on the community.
I've taken everything from shoemaking to wood carving to beekeeping, bird watching.
I think North House has really been thinking about growing the community and growing the different skills, workshops, classes, and opportunities that they offer here.
I am here as the instructor in residence, I teach Gudbrandsdal style rose mowing. It is traditionally a Norwegian folk art originating in the mid to late 1700s. Influenced by the Baroque and Rococo, it has a lot of scrolls, floral elements. It was traditionally done inside homes and on objects of use, so there's different styles throughout different regions in Norway, like Telemark or Hallingdal, Rogaland or Us. But Gudbrandsdal is characterized by folded leaf shapes, so it's a bit more naturalistic.
There's just such an overlap of traditional craft and community and the location that it's an amazing kind of synergy of connections through that. And when people come up and do it in community, there's a bonding that happens. And so craft and community in the location, it's like magic up here. It's a really wonderful experience.
We live in a really technological world, and everybody's so plugged in right now with social media and computers, and being able to do something tactile, work with your hands, it's connecting with and using a part of your brain that I don't think otherwise gets utilized. The other piece I see is appreciation of the natural world. A lot of the materials you use at a craft school are coming from the environment around you. Today we're using black ash, and that's coming from the instructor's woods that he harvested. So you really understand kind of the natural resources that you're using and the application, the usefulness, and the beauty of the materials.
All the students make a bow out of hickory, and so this is one of my students' bows. And so we start off with it cut down a little bit because we have to do it in 3 days, but they learn how to tiller the bow, which is the process of getting the limbs to bend. And that's really the heart of bow building. And so much of the work in crafting that is with a scraper, and this is also, it serves as a draw knife as well. And so they use this to remove small layers of wood to get the limbs to bend evenly. And so they'll check it, they'll put it up like Mike is doing over there, and kind of look for it. We're actually doing what I call teaching the limbs to bend. And so there's really an art to it. There's really no kind of power tool that you can do it with because every piece of wood is different. We're together for 3 long, full days. And there's trials. Sometimes something doesn't turn out right, and so you have to recover from that and persevere. So there's this element of perseverance in going through something that's hard together and then coming out on the end successful.
North House is about the community. I think they've done a great job of connecting with the local community, with the instructors, with students, and really building and growing that community so that people feel welcome here, they feel included, they feel like this is a great place to come and learn and explore new skills and opportunities.
You got to experience it. It's hard to put in words. That's why I'm kind of struggling, because it's hard to put in words of what you go through as a student, and just to walk around and visit the classes.
Well, we're out of time, but you can keep up with our latest updates by following Almanac North on Facebook and Twitter. Visit the WDSE website for program updates and more information about the station. And download the PBS video app for on-demand viewing of Almanac North and your favorite PBS programs. And Denny, it's hard to believe we're already at the end of July.
You know, we have had some remarkable warm summer July weather this year. We don't get that every single year.
Mm-hmm. And it's good to have some reminders, like in the show tonight, that when it is warm, that you have to be careful about things like bacteria in the lake, and just be cautious as you're enjoying our outdoor area.
It's also great for tourism.
Well, we want the tourists to stay healthy. So.
We certainly do. All right.
Well, thanks, Denny.
All right, thank you, Julie.
And thanks to our guests and the crew in the studio. With Dennis Anderson, I'm Julie Zenner. Good night, everyone.